The doorbell pinged with that same tinny electronic tune that had started to feel like a personal alarm clock from hell. I flicked open my phone and checked the camera feed. There she stood again. Brenda Higgins, planted on my porch like a territorial garden gnome, hands parked on her hips, one foot tapping out an impatient Morse code. Her sleek, perfectly highlighted bob swung every time. She stabbed the doorbell button with manicured fury. I let out a slow breath, abandoned my coffee, and accepted that today was the day I stopped hiding. "David, I know you're in there." Her voice crackled through the speaker, sharp enough to cut glass. "Every single resident of Pinecrest Meadows is required to donate to the HOA Block Party Fund. This is not optional." I thumbed the talk. Button, morning, Brenda. Like I've said before, I've read the bylaws front to back. There is nothing, zero, zilch, that mandates contributions to social events. I'm opting out this year. Her eyes widened, and her mouth twisted as if she'd bitten into something sour. This is about community spirit. Every other neighbor has paid their fair share. Who do you think you are? A homeowner who can read, I answered, keeping my tone flat and even. It only made her angrier. Her face flushed crimson as she shoved a clipboard toward the lens. "This is my third visit. Your name is the only one, without a check mark. Do you really want to be the neighborhood cheapskate? Have a lovely day, Brenda." I killed the mic and watched her storm down the walkway, designer sandals smacking the pavement in righteous fury. At the curb, she spun around for one last venomous glare, then marched across the street to her immaculate colonial palace, with its lawn so perfect it looked airbrushed. I had no idea this was only the opening act of the most legendary HOA meltdown our little suburb would ever witness. I'd moved into Pinecrest Meadows exactly 3 months earlier, drawn by the peaceful cul-de-sac, 80 houses, and a backyard big enough for the dog I kept meaning to adopt. 3 bedrooms, short commute, decent schools nearby, perfect on paper. Sure, there was an HOA, but I figured that just meant no rusting cars on cinder blocks and hedges trimmed into submission. I never imagined Brenda Higgins, self-crowned empress of festivity, who ruled the social committee, like it was her own private fiefdom. Within days of closing, a 3-inch binder arrived welcome packet, bylaws, rules, and a pastel calendar of voluntary events. The word voluntary was printed, right there in 12-point font, yet somehow Brenda had missed it. I'd already made small talk with the Andersons next door and waved at the sweet older couple across the street. But I'm wired for quiet evenings and didn't sign up to be anyone's block party mascot. Then the first email landed. Mandatory summer block party contribution, $100. I ignored it, chalking the wording up to Brenda's flair for drama. The follow-up arrived in screaming red caps. "Final notice." I replied politely that I wouldn't be attending and therefore wouldn't be donating. That's when the doorbell became her battering ram. After that third camera showdown, the campaign went nuclear. The next morning, a blinding pink notice flapped on my mailbox. Violation failure to support community initiatives. Fines pending board review. I ripped it down, laughing at the sheer ridiculousness, and headed to work. By the time I got home, 3 more notices had bloomed like toxic weeds. 1 on the front door, 1 on the garage, and for reasons known only to Brenda, 1 stuck to my trash bin. I gathered them all, snapped photos, and started a folder labeled Evidence. The following afternoon, Brenda orchestrated a sidewalk tribunal directly across from my driveway. 4 women formed a tight knot, shooting glances at my house while trading whispers loud enough to carry. "New guy? Thanks. He's special. Rules don't apply." I waved as I grabbed the mail. Sarah, at least I think that was her name, looked mortified and flicked a guilty half-wave back. That evening, at precisely 7:15, the bell rang again. Brenda stood flanked by her husband, Thomas, a thin, bespectacled man who always looked one stern glance away from apologizing for existing. "David, this has gone far enough," Brenda announced in the tone people use with toddlers who won't share toys. "The party is next weekend. We can't finalize the budget until you pay your $100. I stepped outside and closed the door. Behind me, Brenda, listen closely. I am not coming to the party. No rule requires me to fund the party. I am now formally asking you to stop coming to my home about this. We'll fine you," she snapped, voice climbing. "The board can levy fines for non-compliance." "Non-compliance with what, exactly? Show me the bylaw." Thomas reached for her elbow. "Brenda and me, we should?" "No." She shook him off. "He needs to learn how things work here. Everyone pays. Everyone participates. That's how we keep property values high." "Conversation over," I said, turning back to the door. As one stepped inside, I heard her hiss. "You'll regret moving here, David. We protect our own, and people who don't fit in don't stay long." It sounded like bluster, but the hair on my neck stood up. Anyway, I double-checked every camera before bed. The next couple of days stayed quiet, and I let myself hope she'd finally backed off. I was wrong. Thursday evening, I pulled into my driveway. When Brenda materialized from behind her SUV like a budget horror movie jump scare, phone already up and recording. "You think you're so smart, don't you?" she crowed to the camera. "The neighborhood deserves to see what kind of selfish freeloader we have living among us. Someone happy to enjoy everything Pinecrest Meadows offers, but too cheap to contribute a single dollar." I stayed in my car. Window cracked just enough to talk. "Brenda, you're blocking my driveway. Move the SUV and stop recording me." "Oh, now suddenly you care about rules," she sneered. "What about basic decency? Every single neighbor donated. Even the Clarks, on a fixed income, scraped together $50. I said nothing. I pulled out my own phone and hit record. Her eyes flashed and she surged forward, jamming, her lens almost against my glass. "See this? Everyone. Now he's harassing me. This is the kind of person living among us." I eased the car backward, threaded around her vehicle, and rolled into the garage. As the door lowered, Brenda actually tried to duck under it, still filming, until the safety beam froze the door and forced her to jump back. "This isn't over, David. Board meeting. Tomorrow night. And your name is at the very top of the agenda." My security app woke me at 5:30 a.m. with a motion alert. I opened the feed to watch Brenda scattering dozens of block party flyers. Across my lawn, my house number circled and screaming red. Then she yanked a black trash bag from her designer purse, stuffed it beneath my porch steps, glanced around like a bad spy, and scurried back across the street. That was the moment the leash snapped. I called the non-emergency line, laid out the whole saga, and asked what came next. The dispatcher sounded almost relieved when I said, "I had everything on video." He promised an officer that morning and suggested a formal harassment report. By 9, I'd burned every clip onto a thumb drive and laid the timeline out on my kitchen table. Officer Davis scrolled through it all, eyebrows climbing higher with each new outrage. "And this is from 5:30 this morning," I said, playing the lawn littering and porch stashing footage. Bag of spoiled food under my steps. "I'm actually worried about what comes next." Davis nodded. "You've documented this perfectly. That's harassment, trespassing, and littering at minimum. We need to talk to Ms. Higgins. Any idea when she's usually home?" My phone chimed doorbell alert. There she was again, clutching a stack of official-looking papers. Davis gave me a wry smile. Perfect timing. "Mind if I get the door?" She opened it just as Brenda raised her fist to knock. Brenda's face cycled through shock, confusion, and instant calculation. "Oh, a wrong house. I was just dropping off community notices," She stammered, composure fracturing. "Ma'am, I'm Officer Davis, County Police. We've received complaints and would like a word." Brenda's mask slammed back into place. "Complaints against me. I'm the HOA social chair. I'm the one who should be filing reports." Davis stayed cool. "We have video of repeated harassment, trespassing, littering, and statements that could be interpreted as threats against Mr. Vance. That's ridiculous. I'm performing my board duties. He's the one refusing to follow community standards." Her voice climbed, drawing neighbors to their windows like it was pay-per-view. "Ma'am, please lower your voice," Davis said. "Can you show me the section of the bylaws that makes social donations mandatory?" Brenda's cheeks went scarlet. "It's implied. Everyone understands how things work here. Implied isn't enforceable." Davis's tone stayed level. "I'm instructing you to stop all contact with Mr. Vance and remove every notice you've posted." Instead of retreating, Brenda doubled down catastrophically. She jabbed a finger an inch from Davis's face. "Do you have any idea who I am? I'll have your sergeant on the phone in sending seconds. You have zero authority over HOA business." Davis straightened. "Step back and lower your hand. Ma'am, harassment and trespassing are absolutely police matters." Brenda didn't step back. She dug into her purse. Davis's hand moved to her belt, but Brenda only brandished her phone. "I'm calling 911 right now. I'm the victim here. Ma'am, misusing emergency services is an offense." Brenda was already dialing. "Yes, police. I'm being threatened at 1142 Pinecrest Drive by a homeowner and someone pretending to be an officer." Davis sighed, keyed her radio, and requested backup. Minutes later, a second cruiser rolled up. Officer Wright stepped onto the porch. Half the cul-de-sac had now migrated to their lawns. Phones out. Brenda saw the audience and went full martyr. "Neighbors, look what happens when we let outsiders destroy our standards. He weaponized the police against me." Silence. Not one voice rose in her defense. Mrs. Anderson marched forward. "Officers, Brenda's been bullying all of us. She told me she'd have my gnomes confiscated because I only gave $50. A young mom I didn't know piped up. She said my kids would be banned from the pool if I didn't pay the full 100. More stories poured out, extorted. Donations, threats, lost, checks that magically reappeared once people paid twice." Brenda's face went from red to purple as her empire crumbled in real time. "You people are ungrateful. Everything I've done was for property values." When Officer Wright moved to guide her toward the cruiser, Brenda jerked away and slapped his hand hard enough to echo. "Don't you dare touch me. I know my rights." Wright didn't flinch. "Brenda Higgins, you're under arrest for harassment, trespassing, disorderly conduct, and assault on a police officer." The cuffs clicked. Brenda shrieked about bylaws and betrayal all the way to the car. The entire block watched in stunned, glorious silence as the cruiser rolled away. Mrs. Anderson turned to me, eyes shining. 5 years we've endured her. Thank you." Monday morning, a letter arrived from the actual HOA president, definitely not Brenda. It apologized profusely for unauthorized actions, confirmed all social events and donations were voluntary, and announced Brenda's immediate removal from the board. She ended up charged with multiple counts of harassment, trespassing, disorderly conduct, and assault on an officer. At sentencing, she still insisted she was merely passionate about community. The judge sentenced her to 6 months probation, a $1,000 fine, and the Chef's Kiss community service picking up roadside litter. The look on her face when the gavel fell is framed in my memory forever. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe to HOA Conflicts for more.